The entire Piston Cup security team that Mattel has released, including Clayton Kensington on the left, Marlon clutches McKay in the middle, and Marco Axelbender on the right. All three of these appeared throughout the two Piston Cup races in the first Cars movie. So now, let's get into today's birthday request. Thank you for the request, Sen1987, and happy birthday to you. I hope you are having a great day today. And if you are watching this after a birthday, I hope you had a good day and maybe received some cars or planes as presents. So let me know what you may have gotten or how your day went in the comment section below. And now let's get into today's birthday request. So of course, here we have Marlon clutches McKay, who is the sedan police security car, and the two SUV security cars, Marco Axelbender and Clayton Kensington. So first, let's begin by going over the releases of the three of them. We'll start here with Marlon because he is the most common released. Of course, he was originally released around 2010 as a final lap car and as a lenticular single. He was also available in a 3-pack as a lenticular and most recently in a 10-pack for the Radiator Springs Classic Series. Now, of course, he was also released in the 2013 and 2014 Piston Cup series, so he's not that hard to find. I personally had the lenticular version from back in 2010, so just recently I actually purchased a non-lenticular one. And now for the two SUVs here, Clayton Kensington is the more common one because he actually received 2 releases, or 3 releases non-lenticularized. He was first released in 2010 as a deluxe, then in a lenticular 3-pack with himself, of course, Marco Axelbender here on the right, and a lenticular version of Fred. And then he was released in 2015 in the Piston Cup series as well. Now, Marco, on the other hand, was only released in the 2010 Deluxe line and in the same 3-pack. He was not released in 2015. So out of the 3 here, he is the most rare. So now let's start here by reviewing Marlon clutches McKay. Now his name is Marlon McKay and they call him clutches probably because it relates to his clutches or something like that. Not really sure, but it is a nickname for him similar to Hank Halloween Halsum. And now I believe he is his own unique model. I have a few other sedans to compare him with here. We have Nick Stickers, who's actually a lot smaller than him, but I just wanted to show him for comparison purposes. We also have Valerie Veet, who's kind of similar, but definitely a different model, of course. And I also have another Piston Cup related car that also has a light bar on top, but is not security. This is actually the Piston Cup pace car, also known as Charlie Checker. Now they both are sedans, but they are actually quite a bit different. Charlie has this little spoiler in the back here while Marlon doesn't. Marlon's a little bit taller and longer too. And both are just basically different models all in general there. But they actually do kind of look similar in some aspects, I guess you could say. And now I love the expression on the non-lenticular version here. He's very, very determined. And I believe he made his prominent appearance at the first Piston Cup race after it finished and they were trying to decide who won in the 3-way tie. And that was the conclusion, that it was a 3-way tie. And so he kind of had a background appearance. Again, love the expression. Of course, it says security on the hood there. And on the side here, we can see Piston Cup, the nice Piston Cup logo there. Racing, or what does it say in the middle? Racing Series is what it says there in the red circle. Of course, there you got security again. I do like the decal on the tires here with the white line going around it. He's got, of course, that plastic inserted light bar. Security again. Another security. I like how they alternated the colors here, which looks pretty nice. Unfortunately, he does not have a license plate, but he does have the taillights right there. And if he did have a license plate, it would go right there. Now, if we look at the base here, we can see the date stamp. We can see some other information as well. Nothing too important, but I would like to point out the exhaust pipe here. That's a very nice added detail that they gave him because it actually kind of stands out. If you look at it just from the ground, it kind of does stand out a little bit. So I actually really do like him. I love the expression on him, so I was very happy to get this version because, of course, I only had this non-lenticular version, or the lenticular version, my bad, and this one even had a mouth plate as well, which means that the body was separate from the actual mouth there. As you can see, there's like a little crack. So you can see, now these are basically the same. Of course, you can just see the lenticular eyes versus fixed eyes. Now let's move on to Richard Clayton Kensington here, who I actually got originally from 2010, and then I bought the 3-pack as well to get Marco Axelbender because I did not ever find him as the deluxe. So I actually had to buy this non-lenticular version last year. And now I also picked up one of Richard last year because I think the art looks very interesting. It's actually different from the original 2010 art. So that's kind of interesting. I'll probably show some pictures right around here. And of course, he also does have security, a very, very determined expression. Now, again, I believe he appeared in the same scene as Marlon when they're trying to determine who won the race. He does have a light bar. It's different from Marlon's, but it is the same as Marco's, which makes sense because different cars, but Marco and Richard are not. He's got security on the top here with the rack as well. It's just kind of like bendy plastic. Same Piston Cup logo with the racing series in the middle there, security. Nice rims there. On the back it says security and it actually does give him a license plate which states 32592, I believe it says. Nice touch on them. I wish they gave Marlin a license plate, but at least they gave Richard here and Marco license plate as well. Now, Marco here and Richard are the same model as all the other SUVs, or at least most of the SUVs that have been made by Mattel. Here's an example of one, Tormentor's biggest fan. You can see that both of them have the racks on the top, same design and all, same rims, same side view mirrors, same door placement. Everything is essentially the same on here, obviously except for the colors. Here we do have another example, which is Charlie Cargo. Again, now this one actually does not have the luggage rack up here, which does technically make him a different model because those require holes in the metal. And obviously there aren't any holes here. And this one also does have a mouth plate, as you can see. So this one is the same casting basically, but it is a different mold, if that made any sense. Now here's the lenticular version of Richard. I do believe this is Richard. And here we have Marco. I always kind of distinguish the two of them because Richard always kind of had a frown on his face while Marco kind of had a smile on his face all the time. And so now let's take a look at Marco exclusively. He does have the same exact decals but has a very nice expression. Now he made his prominent appearance in the last Cars race when he's talking to Fred and Mario and Andretti before the race commenced. He actually had a few lines as well, so that's pretty cool. He does actually have a mouth plate there, which is kind of unfortunate. Same decals like I said. Now let's see if he has the same license plate as Richard. Yeah, unfortunately it does look like he has the same license plate, but I mean, it's kind of to be expected nowadays if they're the same model and so close like this. Yeah, those are the same from what I can see right there. It looks like that 32592 license plate on both of them, but at least they do have very unique expressions to each other because if you guys think about it, let's take for example the Garrett Taylor and Mike Lorenzen sample there, and those are very closely related and they have very similar expressions as well, but for these they actually have different expressions yet they are similarly related. So thanks Mattel for doing that. They actually do have different eye colors as well, kind of a more greenish than kind of a darker green right there. And so that is basically all for the review of Marco Axelbender, Richard Clayton Kensington, or as some people like to refer him as RCK. So thank you very much for the request, Sen1987, and again, happy birthday. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you guys all on Saturday for another video. See you guys then. Bye now.